Hello, everyone. I hope that wherever you are, wherever you're tuning in from, that you are safe and well. My name is Tala Odeh, and I'm the Capability Development Lead here at Cosmic Centaurs. We are a leadership and organizational development firm based in the GCC, if you don't know who we are. And today you're joining us for what is the first webinar of our seventh annual Cosmic Conference. It's a 3-week virtual conference taking place between March 25th and April 17th. And with us is Sandra Salame, who I will introduce you in just a minute. The
Hi, Tala.
conference is Hi there. Our conference is typically held in October, but given the pace and gravity of events unfolding across the region, we knew that the conversation couldn't wait. So, to support leaders when they needed it most, we chose to bring this year's edition forward to convene the conversation now. Our conference is titled Grounded and Limitless, Leading Organizations That Survive and Thrive. Through this conference, we're hoping to support leaders as they manage prolonged uncertainty, which a lot of us are experiencing. At its core, this idea of being grounded and limitless is about staying clear eyed about reality while continuing to build what's possible. And so we're bringing together 15 amazing leaders, experts, academics, practitioners to make sense of what leadership requires in moments like this collectively. And we'll do that across 3 themes, 3 weeks, 3 themes. Week 1, endure. How do we survive periods of uncertainty? What do we need to do to stay afloat? Week 2 is adapt. How do we evolve in response to change? And week 3 is thrive. How do we turn the lessons we learned from a crisis into a competitive advantage, emerging stronger, more innovative, and better prepared for the future? You're joining us for week 1, Endure, which is really all about helping leaders face reality, preserve that stability, and protect what matters most in moments of prolonged stress, which is not so far away from the reality we have. This week, we have 8 webinars and a leaders circle, and the team is going to drop the links in the chat to the program. And if you feel up for it, if you know of a leader who might benefit from any session, please do join us, spread the word. We want to make sure that this learning experience is really valuable for everybody. In these sessions, we do want you to participate. So, including in today's webinar, I invite you to share your reflections, questions, or your own experiences and insights in the chat. We're going to learn so much from Sandra today, I know, and we're going to learn just as much from everybody in attendance. Also, if you do know somebody who might really find value in today's topic, which I'll share more about, please tag them. It's not too late to join us. And this recording will be made available as a podcast, as a video, and as an article at the end of this session. There's one more thing. We do this conference at no cost. In this context, especially, we just wanted to bring in as many experts and leaders together to collectively make sense of what we're all experiencing. And if you do find value and you do want to give back, I have one ask. We are conducting primary research to capture how leaders in the region are navigating uncertainty. So we want everybody in the world to learn from the Arab world. Zaina in the chat box below is going to share a link to a really important survey on leading in the Arab world. And we'd love for you to give us 5 minutes to please take that survey and contribute to this research. Let me tell you a little bit about the topic today. It's titled Clarity and Courage, Emotional Regulation in a Prolonged Crisis. A lot of leaders now are navigating a really difficult reality. You're expected to show up with clarity. You're expected to support other people, carrying your own load at the same time. I know I speak for myself and a lot of other parents. We also have a lot of e-learning to manage. And while we tend to talk about leadership in terms of strategy and action and guiding an organization forward, sometimes what's actually shaping those outcomes is less tangible. It's how the leaders are feeling, and it's how they regulate themselves in these moments. These micro interactions can be the tone that you take in a conversation with the team, or the way that you start a meeting, whether it's straight to business or if you take a moment to check in. To quote a member of the Siira team, Maria Beledi, think of your leadership as the energy that enters the room before you get there. What does that tell everybody? And what does that say about you? The impact that we have as leaders is truly significant. There's data to back this up and how important it is. Actually, almost 70% of employees say that their manager impacts their mental health as much as their partner, more than a doctor, more than a therapist. It's a huge level of influence that one individual carries, and that weight is a responsibility. And today, our conversation will explore how we can show up in these moments, how we can make sure that we're doing right by our people, our teams, and really, really importantly, for ourselves. So, myself and Sandra will be covering three chapters: what leaders are experiencing now. She'll tell us what is surfacing and what she sees, how leaders are responding, what's happening internally, because a lot of leaders have an inner dialogue that is um, quite intense, and we want to hear about how they're reacting, how they're responding, and very practically what we can do for our teams, for our organizations, and for ourselves. So, without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to our speaker today. There's no better person to have this conversation with than Sandra Salame. Sandra, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you.
I want to tell the world how incredible you are and why you're best fit for this conversation. Sandra is a remarkable leader, an expert, a partner, a mother, a friend. She's the CEO, but not one of, or just actually two organizations: Crestan, a leading cybersecurity distribution firm here in the Middle East, and Siira, a mental well-being platform that provides emotional support through harnessing the power of communities to overcome day-to-day struggles. They are a longtime partner of Cosmic. Sandra has joined us for many a webinar, and she's going to tell us all about the work that Siira does. For those of you who aren't familiar, Siira aims to educate and empower individuals, businesses, and governments, giving them tools and knowledge needed to solve well-being challenges. So with that, Sandra, one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation is because leadership from the outside can often look very composed, and internally people are carrying a great load, like a huge load. It's an invisible load often. And at Siira, what I love about the work that you do is you create spaces for leaders to actually express that, to name it, to come together and to share that so that no one person has to carry that. I'd love for you to start us off. Tell us about the work that you're doing in response to this current crisis. I know you're based in Lebanon. The war that all the leaders in Lebanon are experiencing across the GCC, all of the instability. Tell us about the work that you're doing in response.
Absolutely. So thank you for everyone who's also attending. I have a lot of colleagues, leaders, but also from my own team in both companies watching us today. So as you were mentioning, Tala, I loved in your intro, leaders of the Arab world, because honestly, especially right now, we are different being leaders in the Arab world due to everything that's happening. And this is, to some people, to some leaders, this is not new. They've been through multiple crises for the past couple of years. And to others, maybe this is the first time uncertainty and crisis is taken to another level, because as leaders we're used to dealing with a lot of uncertainty in our role, but especially during this geographical instability, the whole political instability also around us, it's taken crisis to another level as well, putting pressure on, as you mentioned, our not just our strategy but also our nervous system. So in our in the spaces we tailor for our leaders, we don't just discuss their strategic challenge, but also their nervous system challenge, because really this is what is being tested right now a lot. So if I want to just describe what leaders are going through, I think during the same day, it's a roller coaster of emotions. So between fear, between anger, between sometimes overwhelm. And this happens during a whole week. It can vary during the week. It can even vary during the same hour. So it's a lot
Yeah.
to hold. Sometimes it's hope. We just want to hang on to
Mm,
some insights, possibility of things changing, but then something happen, an incident happens, and we go back to feeling those, let's say, challenging emotions.
mm,
So yeah, if I want to describe it, we're kind of in the winter season. In our leadership journey, it's the season where we're faced with storms, we're faced with a lot of changes. Our teams are also exhausted, they're overwhelmed. They're looking at us for guidance, they're looking at us with hopeful. Every single morning I greet my team, I always get the same question: do you think this will end, and when it will end? So they even look up to us as leaders for hope. So we're in this winter season where we're not actually putting our seeds in the soil. We're not maybe creating as before. We're not
mm,
investing or reaping. but we're actually just making sure everybody is safe. We are safe as an organization. We are safe as a team. We have those heavy emotions to deal with, and to really stay put together to be able to navigate these difficult times.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for that framing. I think winter can have really austere conditions. It can make it that it's tough, and it can be long and it can be cold. But a lot of the work that we put in winter is what we reap in the spring. I'd love for you to
Absolutely.
tell us a little bit about the leader circles that you're. What are you seeing in those circles? I know that you said some leaders have been through this before, others aren't. Maybe tell us about the energy in those spaces. Tell us about some of the sound bites that you're hearing from these leaders. I'd love to get a sense of what are you like. What are you hearing and picking up on, given that's unique to this specific context today?
Yeah, so what we do at Siira, as you mentioned in the introduction, is create these safe spaces, or spaces for dialogue where leaders can come in, and it's a safe space.
Mhm.
They can talk about their emotions, they can talk about their challenges, they can learn from an expert, a therapist who's with us on the call, but also learn from other peers, other leaders that are going through the same challenges. And a lot of what we're hearing, Tala, also depends on the experiences that this leader has with uncertainty, whether it's their first time or they've been through this before. So, for example, Lebanese leaders have been through this kind of war for the third time now in the past 2 years. They're a bit more frustrated with what's happening because it's on repeat. So we're seeing
Mhm.
repetitive happens. It makes us more overwhelmed and frustrated,
Mm.
versus more of our colleagues in the Gulf region who maybe have it's their first time going through such a crisis with an intensified level. So what we're hearing is, I wish I had a good support system. I wish I knew how to take decisions during times of uncertainty. I wish I had a playbook and someone would tell me, how to decide what to do and have some clarity. Sometimes I don't know how to deal with difficult situations. Sometimes I don't have answers. My team comes to me with questions, and I don't have answers, and I'm afraid to say I don't have answers. We also hear, sometimes I just want to forget my role and take care of my family, and I don't
Mm.
want to be there. I just want to be with my family, and prioritize that. Sometimes we hear, I'm tired and I'm exhausted and I don't know how long I can do this anymore. So we hear a lot of those, you know, inner thoughts, and as I said, emotional storms that leaders are going through.
Mm.
And through those spaces for dialogue, we try in a way to, recenter conversations, give some practical tools, let leaders understand that they're not alone. Whatever they're going through, it's really common and it's really shared across all of us in the region. And while it's true there's no playbook, but there are, some tools, some solutions, some self-help, a way to help yourself, and some self-help methods that can make this whole journey, less difficult on the leader themselves, on the leader himself or herself, but also on their teams and on the organization.
Beautiful. First of all, mashallah alaikum. I mean, that sounds like such important work that's needed right now. And also for so many leaders to come and feel like they can show up as they are with whatever emotion and have a space to name it and have a space to create it. I know from some of the work that we've done in the past on leading through uncertainty and some of the spaces we've created to help leaders, some of the easiest things to do is to just name it and not feel like you're having to go through it alone. You touched on so many things in the last few sentences, and maybe I want to start with one of the first ones that I picked up on, which is around these different types of responses you're getting. This inner experience of a leader, their inner storm, as you referred to it, very illustrative language. And I think a lot of people are feeling that, and kind of like you said earlier, a storm is, you know, feeling 100 emotions in an hour, in a week, and in a day, and um, it feels difficult to contain. I'd love for you to talk to us about some of the different archetypes of the responses? Like, and specifically, I know you said that some of them are feeling, shame, some of them are feeling fatigue, exhaustion. All of those, I think so many in our audience, I myself can relate to. And what are the more common ones that you're seeing, and what are the tools that relate to those responses, so that if leaders see themselves in that archetype, they know what's available to them as the best resource to carry them forward?
Absolutely. So this is what we teach leaders in our circles. As you mentioned, the most important thing is to name it, to be aware of where we are, and to be
Mhm.
able to understand our response, and to understand where our response comes from. So we because of our history and our experience, our nervous system tends to react in a certain way, and this can
Mm.
vary. So we don't have just one archetype, as you mentioned, but sometimes we're more comfortable with a certain archetype than with others.
Yeah.
So if I'm someone who is more on the explosive side, I don't have a problem in expressing my emotions. I can show my anger. In times of crisis, I tend to react more on the fight front. So
Mm.
I tend to be more angry. I tend to be more vocal. I tend to express my frustration, my anger. So I'm constantly, I feel that I'm constantly in a fight mode. I don't want to accept the way things are. I'm rebelling against what's happening. So that's one archetype. And for each archetype, there are certain tools and methods that we teach, so that we can bring back our nervous system to a more calm state. Because when
Mm.
we're in active tendencies, we're not really efficient in taking decisions. We're not
Mm.
able to relate to others. We're not able to be present, and they're not useful. But they're very normal. So what we do is we normalize responses. So we tell our leaders that whatever response you have, it's absolutely normal. It's your defense mechanism. It's your body. It's your nervous system really standing up for you during those difficult times, because there's an overwhelm of emotions. So the first archetype is fight, and we see that a
Mm.
lot, especially
Mm.
with men. It's a bit of a, but it's more of a tendency with male leaders. The second archetype is freeze. That's on the other extreme of fight. A lot of us go into freeze mode, and with freeze, they would like to escape, and they would like to. They feel paralyzed. They just want to retreat. They want to forget. Sometimes they really dissociate from what's happening. We
Mm.
see leaders tending to small details, small things are not really urgent and important, just to keep themselves busy, and to safeguard or keep this safety. So that's on the free side. And the third one is flight, and that's also a common reaction that we see. It's where we want to use different ways, let's say, to think about something else, to escape, to uh, uh, do pretend that we're also coping with things in a different way, not being
Mm.
present. So we see a lot of social media scrolling. We see a lot of maybe eating, more on the eating, more on the food side. We see people trying to get into fights that are not really relevant right now. So anything that could distract us from what's happening. So these are common reactions that we see. Again, we reiterate, this is very normal. Our nervous system are hyper vigilant during this phase. We're bombarded with information, with news, with crisis, with events happening every other time of the day. So it's really a normal reaction of our body to protect us. What we teach leaders is, one, become aware of what you're going through, and you might
Mhm.
go through all phases of flight and freeze and fight during the same day.
Mm.
Know what's the tendency, what's your tendency. So are you more on the paralysis side, are you more on the escape side, or are you more on the fight side and expressing yourself? And for each one of those, there are some methods and some tools to ground yourself again, to be present in the moment again, to calm your nervous system again. and be able to deal with what's happening and model that for your teams. And that's the most important you know bit that we're all looking to as leaders. So how do we show up, and how are we the example for our team members to be able to model us as well? Our nervous system, unfortunately, as leaders, dictates the nervous system of the company and of our teams. So it disrupts everybody's nervous systems.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe just to kind of recap, because so much of that resonated, the three archetypes that you often see are uh, fight, those who get hot-headed and angry, and also flight, the people who are just trying to figure it all out. But then also you mentioned one that I think a lot of leaders can relate to, especially in a moment of uncertainty, which is freeze. They might not even realize that they're doing it because actually when they're like, but I don't have the answer, so then there's nothing I can do, there's nothing I can say. I will just continue or be as I am. And it reminds me actually of some of the work that Wissam Adib, who we collaborated, all of us on this on a big training for the Big Four, and we talked about crisis, which is about managing emotional equilibrium to manage the crisis. And I think we'll hear more of that in his session next week. And it's so true that so many of us can be in denial or avoid it. A lot of us can try and find some progress, and then for a lot of us there is a fear response, and we feel like that's where we would need a lot of those tools that you mentioned. And so I want to thank you for that. I also want to then take us to another thought that I had, which was something that a previous conference speaker mentioned. We had Scott Armstrong, who is the founder of Mental in the 2022 Cosmic Conference. And he said something that stayed with us, which really relates to what you talked about with leaders as role models. He said, leaders need to fit their own oxygen masks first, because if you can't see clearly, you won't make good decisions, and that gets passed down. Leaders are the barometer for their teams, right? And that's kind of what you were saying too. I want to ask you, how do emotional states like fear, flight, denial, shame, how do they show up in the decisions that leaders are making? Leaders might think that they're managing them well, but maybe they're not. Tell me, like, what does it look like on the outside when a leader is operating from those modes of archetypes, when they haven't regulated, and they haven't, done what they needed to do to put their own oxygen mask on first, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. So this happens again. We really need to insist, and everyone on the call, I think, can relate to that. It's really tough, being in those situations and in this time. So we just want to normalize that there will be difficult situations, and we really have to we're going to be visiting those difficult emotions as well, be it fear, as you mentioned, shame, guilt. Those show up a lot, especially when we're faced with not just our own feelings, but also having others in our team bring those feelings to us, and if we're not comfortable sitting with those feelings, if those feelings are not uh, we're not familiar with them, or we don't accept them in ourselves, when those feelings show up, whether we feel them in our body or whether others we see them in others, we're not going to be able to
Mhm.
help ourselves and others to regulate them, to sit with them, and to be able to understand what are they signaling. Because what we teach leaders also, Tala, is that feelings and emotions are data. So anything that shows up in your body is a signal, it's a message, and it's
Beautiful.
yeah, it's up to us to be able to translate that, instead of being afraid of it or rejecting it, but just being able to take that message and to think what to do with it. And it's not easy. I've been it's my third time going through war in the recent years, and as a leader, and yet, and I also manage a mental health company, and I'm part of those trainings, and I work on myself, and I have a lot of I apply those tools as well, personally, and still I go through difficult situations where I really experience all those emotions intensely, and it leaves a mark. I was telling you in preparation for this session, I was telling you a personal story. One of my employees during this crisis calls me one day at the beginning of the war, at the start of the war, calls me one day and tells me, I'm really sorry. I Because of the bombing and the war, we have to move houses, and I we have to find another house, and I'm really in this transition with my family, and it's going to be 2 or 3 days where I don't have a place to sit or to be able to connect to work. And he's just 22 years old. He's a young employee, and I was listening to him, having that phone call at this. So I felt I'm used to this. This is not the first time that employees that I'm faced with such a situation, and we have employees that whose lives are disrupted, and still this phone call really made my heart hurt. The mom in me just wanted to hug that employee and say, you
Yes.
know you don't yeah, you're too young to go through this, and it's unfortunate that you have to go through this. The leader in me wanted to tell that employee, don't worry about those 3 days. It's not even Don't even take them as days off, and the company is here, and whatever you need, we're going to stand by you, and we're really ready to support you. And the human in me just felt so angry and frustrated that anyone has to go through this. So all those three roles that I have at the same moment, with that intensity of emotions, with this whole collection of emotions showing up, between anger, between frustration, between empathy, and they all show up in the same moment. And you have to articulate that, and you have to accept them, understand them in yourself, so that you can actually use words to just say, I cannot imagine what you're going through, and I'm here, and please let me know how I can help. With a lot of authenticity. So just for the leaders on the call, I know it's not easy, and but that's why we're leaders, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that anecdote. And I think it's touched on a lot that I can personally relate to. We had a team member who was based in Gaza, and he had a similar situation where he called and was like, I'm unable to finish this deliverable because actually I have to relocate for yet another time into Egypt. And so if it's okay, I'll be back on in a week. And our response was like, don't ever worry about that deliverable. Like you are in a moment of, sir, you are trying, you do your best to do what you need, your family needs to do for safety. And on Maslow's hierarchy, it's the bottom of that pyramid. And so I think you also said something like, as a leader, as a mom, as a human, and there's a lot that we have to hold as leaders, right? There's a lot that's in there, and you're very aware of the complexity of all those roles and where they come together and where they don't. And there's a question in the chat here that leads us to the next uh, chapter that I want us to talk about, which is, it's Zena says, it's so important for a leader to take time to understand their own traumas and responses, understand them and talk about them, leading with vulnerability. You said in your response, like, I don't want this for you. I don't want you to have to deal with this. You're young. You shouldn't have to do with that. Drawing on from, what you experienced in yourself. And I think it's so important for a leader to role model that, like you said, to be open to say those things, to say it's hard, to say it's tough. Um, in an article that, titled Why Leadership Wellbeing is a Strategic Imperative, we actually talked about how leaders need to be vulnerable. So the data backs it up. Like, it's not just us who's saying it. It's only a quarter of leaders allow themselves to be vulnerable at work because they are actually very afraid that it's going to diminish the trust with their teams, and it's what drives them to hold back from telling that. But actually, what employees want is leaders who can show up, can say, today is a day where I feel dysregulated. So if I'm snappy, I'm sorry. Or, to say I had a really hard weekend, I went through something, and I'm not okay with this context today. I'm angry. There's no shortage of stats that tell you that, like, actually, when a leader is that forthcoming, their teams build a lot more trust. Um, they
And
put
you
an
want
argument for why actually, yeah, you should really be so authentic, like you said. And I want to ask you, how do you encourage leaders to be that vulnerable, especially in a prolonged crisis when maybe they're like unsure, like, man, like, am I able today to come up and talk and say, like, I didn't have a good weekend? But in fact, like, they're human just like you. So I'd really love to know how you help leaders be that vulnerable, right? Like, what can we do to encourage them to say, like, what does that sound like in action?
We just redefine vulnerability. So you mentioned that, Tala. There's a lot of shame around vulnerability. It means when we're vulnerable, it means we're weak, and that's on every leader's mind. And uh, it's it's logical. We don't want to seem weak. But weakness here is very different from how typically we see weakness. It's not a power. I mean, good leaders, and I think a lot of the people on the call will resonate. It's not about force today. Today's leadership is
Mhm.
not about physical force. It's not about authority. It's really getting people to follow your vision. It's getting people to all of you, have a common goal, and all of you, are rallied around this mission and purpose that you're all doing together. And it's a lot of serving. It's a lot of putting yourself into service of others. For me, this is leadership. So in no way does vulnerability, as we call it, or showing an authentic face of yours, and really showing that I relate, and that I might be going through the same thing, or that I understand what you're going through, or that I have been through that as well. So that definition of vulnerability really goes along with how can I help and how can I be of service. And that's
Mhm.
leadership today. Otherwise, you're not being a leader if you're not serving a higher purpose. And all of us together, if we're not serving customers, a higher purpose, a mission, we're not building something together, we're not of service to each other, then it's not leadership for me. So vulnerability here is actually just being present and being authentic. And when it's relatable, saying, yes, I've been through this and I understand what you're feeling. And if I haven't been through this, I just express and say, I haven't been through this, but I can imagine it's difficult from what I'm hearing from you, just relating to others. And in that, we model a lot of power. It's a lot of power. On the contrary, it's not being soft and it's not being weak. It's really a lot of power. And today, in all our workshops and all our leadership journey, when we teach leaders, anything it has to do with organization, we do that a lot with you as Cosmic. So in all our leadership work together, we always come back to the self work. Who are you as a leader? How do you accept your own emotions? How do you accept who you are? Your own power struggles, your own definition of leadership, your own authenticity, because that's at the essence of leadership today. So yeah, we encourage leaders to be of service to others, to ask themselves, how can I help? That's the first thing we should ask. And to work on themselves in a way, to get comfortable with those emotions, to self-regulate, so that we can be of better service to others, so that we can be fully present. If those emotions and those nervous system shifts are not something we're comfortable with, we're not going to be able to be there for others and be there for ourselves. It's always going to be, a mess, and it's going to be messy, and it's going to be complicated. But when we're at ease with understanding our own patterns, our own reactions, our own emotions, we're comfortable with it, we can put that aside and show up in a better way.
Yeah. I wanna draw on some of the comments that we're getting from everybody in the audience. Thank you so much for your engagement. There's so much of it, and a lot of people are really relating to what you're saying, myself included, actually. I think one of the most pointed things you said was how just showing up and saying it is the first step in role modeling it. Today, I didn't sleep well. Everything at night kept me up. I'm going to be really tired. I'm going to prioritize this today. If you need anything, let me know. Like asking for that grace, I think, is really powerful, like you're saying. Carolyn in the chat says being vulnerable as a leader allows your team to identify with you as well. It makes you reachable and more authentic. And I couldn't agree more. It actually offers the team permission to feel like they can also do the same. I think another one from Muna says the issue is that sometimes people are also quiet and you only hear when things blow up. And it actually brings me to something I wanted to share earlier, which is this difference between a reaction and a response. It's something that we offer as a small distinction to a lot of the leaders that we work with in our leadership team development sessions and our middle manager sessions. Can you differentiate between your initial knee-jerk reaction, what you want to come immediately out with, and how you choose to respond? A lot of the work that we do is helping leaders be deliberate about how they show up, be
Yeah.
intentional about it. And that would require you to be intentional about what you're going to say in response to something someone said. Um, you had a really gracious answer to your colleague who needed to move. Um, and some leaders who were having a bad day might have had a really, almost like impulsive reaction and not have come up with something as deliberate. And that happens. And I'm sure you hear of some of those stories. And that's where, like you're saying, some of the shame might come from, the fear that they don't want to say the wrong thing. I really relate to this concept that we as leaders have to show up with a really clear intention of, I'm going to show up as I am today, and I'm going to name it, because that's going to help everybody understand where we are. And that'll also help them, align to what I'm saying and fall in line with being deliberate. Um,
I just want to,
I want to, please,
yeah,
yes, please add.
even in our vulnerability, it has to be a response and not a reaction, because we
Yeah,
also, we have to shield also the team and the org from our own inner storm in a way. So if we know that we're spiraling somehow or being dramatic in our response and we are overwhelmed, we cannot relay that just for the sake of being vulnerable and open. We can't also relay all our emotions and our insecurities and the stress we're going through to our teams and the org, knowing that this is just temporary, and we're going to we know that we just need maybe a day or two to be able to regain our composure again. So even with vulnerability, it has to be intentional vulnerability. It has to be a vulnerability that actually serves and helps and supports,
yeah.
not just vulnerability for the sake of venting or because we have a role, I mean, a guiding role.
Yeah. I couldn't agree. And actually, what you're saying is true. It's like, actually, this is really hard work. This requires a lot of self-awareness. Emotional regulation is hard. I think if you're a parent and you have toddlers, you know just how hard that can be. I read a really good book called Thinking Fast and Slow. It's a dense read, but it's a good one, by Daniel Kahneman. He's a famous psychologist. And actually, he tells us that our brain has two systems, thinking fast and thinking slow. Your fast, your instinctive reactions, your emotions, they help you with the reactions that you need in life or death situations. But they also make you jump to conclusions or act out of urgency rather than, being intentional. And I think leadership in these moments is asking for something else. It's asking for the system two, which is the slow, which is the reflective, the more intentional. It's not natural to operate from systems two when the world around you is very turbulent and uncertain and you're feeling anxious and stressed. What
Your role
would
is
you
to be a
advise a leader to do when they have to regulate? Like, I'm in a moment of crisis. What are the tools I, Tala, can use when I'm triggered in a situation that's already very tense? What should I be doing to help me, navigate through this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna divide the tools into two parts. So one are self-help tools. So as a leader, there are daily things in our routine that we can change that touch on our physical, because we are mind and body at the same time. So it touches on our body, it touches on our mind, our soul, let's say. So these are
Mhm,
small tools. And the second part of looking at self-help is also a mindset, and having that clarity. We call the session clarity and courage. So despite all the uncertainty, what we should be clear about. Okay, so that's part two.
mhm,
Going back to part one, what are small tools? It starts in the body. Emotions are energy in the body, stored energy in the body. So we always teach leaders to we call it close the stress loop. So these are stuck
mhm,
emotions. These are emotions that are that are generating uneasiness to our nervous system. They're shifting it. The best way to deal with it is to move. And
mhm,
we used to, by impulse, we used to think about movement, but now we know that science, gives it a specific, a role, a scientific foundation. So move. Whenever you feel you're frustrated, you're angry, you have unprocessed emotion, do small movements. whether it's a small walk, or whether it's after every 45 minutes to an hour, just move, you shake your body. We even teach people who are in freeze mode to just uh, you know move their body, put their hands on a wall and just push towards a wall. So anything has to do with the body is very important during those moments. Second is sleep and food, which also goes back to our general mental well-being. We know that hormones also affect our mood, and all that disruption in our lifestyle will make us even more sensitive to the negativity around us, and will make us go through those roller coasters of emotions. So that would be on the body side. On the mind, taking, really focusing on what's urgent and what's a priority, articulating and voicing out what's really urgent now, making it clear for all our teams, for writing, even as leaders, just writing, jotting down what I'm supposed to do today, being very intentional, so that we have clarity and control. Because in times of uncertainty, what we lack is really this sense of control. So what we can control, even if it's small task, even if it's how our day is somehow supposed to be managed, this is very important. So
Yeah.
on the mind side, minimize social media scrolling. I do it twice, once in the morning and at night. During the day, I try. It doesn't always work. I always say, some days it works, but on other days, when it's very stressful, I do it more. But putting that intention, so minimize the scrolling, having those focused 1 hour windows of focused work, then taking a break, coming back, being clear, writing down. I started it. I didn't used to plan my day. Now I really plan my day as much as possible, to have control over what we're supposed to deliver. And on the soul level, prayer, I would say, and really getting together, prayer, faith, anything that gives meaning to what we're going through, but also a really good support system, meeting with friends, meeting with colleagues, meeting with peers, going into safe spaces, having those dialogues, talking about it as much as possible, leaning on others. Because really, when you feel that you're supported, it makes really a big difference to this journey,
Yeah.
not doing it alone. On the
Thank
other
you.
side,
Yeah.
on the mindset side, just always remembering, why you're a leader, and that you're here to serve. And this is everything you're going through will impact you as a leader. It's a lesson. It will teach you a lesson in your life. It will make you better at dealing with uncertainty,
Mm.
despite this, the ugliness of it all. But you're training your organization, yourself, and your teams to become more resilient, more creative. There's always opportunity, even in times of crisis, and keeping that
Yeah.
in mind is very important.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Thank you. I think actually Wissam had a similar question. So you gave us so many great tips there. I'd love to just also invite everybody in attendance to share what helps them, what helps you fill your cup, what helps you stay grounded. How do you get emotionally regulated in times like this? And I want to really resonate with what you said. I think what's so fascinating about the current geopolitical tension that's happening around us is that it took place during Ramadan, a moment when a lot of us were looking to spirituality, being focusing on renewal and looking inward. And for a lot of the leaders I know that we checked in with and that we work with regularly, we asked them, how are you getting through this? And for them, it was a lot of it just they were referring to Ramadan to say that they are going back to their prayer mats, they're taking that time, and like you said, community, that for me is the biggest one. I mean, I as a leader also, I always tell the team, we work remotely, here's a Zoom link, guys. If anybody doesn't want to be alone like me, please just join in. I was in a working session today with their CEO, and she was like, I was just a body double for you in this activity. And I was like, that's all I needed. Really, sometimes you just, the power of community. And that's a lot of
Rit-
the circle that we run too, is just, yeah, bringing people together, right? Like feeling like you're not alone. And I want to make
and
sure we get to this. Yeah,
rituals,
please.
being
Rituals.
intentional, doing these, rituals, checking in. uh, with my team, we check in every single day. We try to, as much as possible, check in, even if it's 30 minutes, even if it's 20 minutes, just check in, make sure everybody's on track, everybody's doing okay. Just asking is enough. So rituals, as you mentioned, this community aspect, really feeling that you're not alone. Because at the end of the day, especially during uncertain times, it's not a one-man show. It's not a one
Yeah.
leader show at all.
We forget as leaders, it can be very lonely at the top, but actually that we have our people and our team around us. And that's where I want to take us to one of our last questions, which is, you said that leadership is in service of others. What can I do for others? And I want to know, we talked a lot about what I can do for myself, how I can feel comfortable with vulnerability, how I can fill my own cup, how I can take care of myself. I still have to lead people, teams,
Yeah.
departments, organizations. Some leaders are operating at the societal and community level. I'd love for you to share with us, what are some of the practical ways leaders can help their team, emotionally regulate and carry through this prolonged crisis? Maybe we can do team level, then org level. And then I'll take us to our lightning round questions.
Absolutely. I'm seeing a lot of comments on the chat as well, a lot of engagement.
Tons.
So
Yes,
if if people have tips and advice, because we created a micro community during this call,
we
so
did. Look at
one
that.
can share it, it will help us all. So just to answer your question, Tala, at the team level, a lot of clarity. As I mentioned, always remember the needs. In times of uncertainty, you have a need for control. So clarity. Be very clear on what's urgent, what's a priority, and how do we shift. So how are we shifting? Having those conversations. So in both companies that I lead, we had those conversations with all teams. Where are we now? What's expected? And really, where are we heading? So that people have clarity. So every day reiterate, the priorities, clarity, plans, making sure, even if we have to have those difficult conversations, have them. Okay, it's so that's on the team level. I would say also rituals, check-ins, like we mentioned, maybe prioritizing a bit more group work rather than individual work, just to make sure that people are held, they're supported. As I saw some people mention on the chat, also respecting people's rhythm changes, understanding that people are going through disruptions, just being aware of that. So shorter meetings, prioritizing sports. We always in Siira, Maria Beledi, that you mentioned in the beginning, always makes sure everybody has moved today, just so that we're all well. We're all well. We all remember to move to even if it's a small walk, to just make sure that at the physical level we're okay, we're maintained food and sleep and movement as much as possible. So that's at the team level. At the org level, I would say really have that understand that it's a complex, not a complicated environment what we're going through. Complex, so there's no playbook. Just being comfortable with that. A lot of operations, experimentation, looking at what we can do. What are low-hanging fruits that we can now harness so that we can sustain. As we mentioned in the beginning, it's winter, so in winter it's really not seeding and planting, but it's surviving. So what prioritizing cash, maybe prioritizing a solid strategy that's here to help us on the short term, but also if we have the space, giving people hope that this is ending by working on some long-term projects. Keep that momentum, even though short-term is prioritized, but also don't stop the conversations about the long-term plans, so that people understand, your team understand, and your organization understand that this is ending, and that we have something to look forward to beyond this crisis as well. So I would say on the org level, clarity, communicate as a leader. So make sure that everybody in the organization knows where we are, our challenges, where do we stand, and really revamping our playbook, adapting and revamping our playbook. What do we need to experiment right now with? What do we need to adjust and adapt? What short-term goals we have, milestones that we have, but also keep in mind that we're staying for the long term, and this will end. So
I'd love to add to that. Such really important ones, rituals, I think, just showing up, saying what you do know, saying what you don't know. Mariana also says, I live nowadays on daily cycles, plan the morning, plan the evening. And actually, I'd love to share what we did at Cosmic, because I think that was so effective in that, like, for the first few days, we checked in on each other. We said, whatever we can achieve, whatever we will, we do. We checked in on our community, our clients. And then we didn't do our our daily stand-ups, we looked at them as short time horizons. What are we going to do today? What are we going to do in the coming, afternoon? And then also, we then eventually, as leadership team, came together and said, okay, we do need to have scenario planning, because for a lot of us, like you said earlier, for leaders, some of the ways that we can help get through this is to scenario plan. Like, we need to consider all of the many options that we have. What are we going to do? And when we read that back to the team, like, they were all nodding their head. They were like, great, thank you. Like, that really checks out. Like, we feel like we're part of this, like sharing what you can to the best of your ability, and even saying, I'm here with incomplete information, and I'm here. And that's what matters.
And
We have
having
so many.
having
Yeah,
internal champions within the organization that can help you. Again, it's not a one-man's job or one-woman job. It's champions within the organizations who will have those conversations with their team, cascaded down as well. Model what you're doing at at leadership level, but also cascaded down within their teams. So we all have
yeah.
managers, leaders, that are managing their own team. So giving this playbook kind of, or this process of what should be done, so that it's cascaded down further.
Yeah, makes sense. And I think that that's a beautiful way to also engage your team and feeling like they're part of carrying that weight with you, where you say, like, I would love for you to be the one if you're ready for it, and if you can do it, and like you said, a task force so that they can rotate. That's great. We have amazing suggestions from everybody in the comments who are sharing what helps them. They range from chocolate to Goodreads, to planning sessions, to living out loud, embracing a carpe diem lifestyle. I think that there's no one right way to do it. And I think that's something that you really maintain as a thread in this conversation, Sandra, is that, however we are showing up, that's okay. We do have a responsibility. We bear that as leaders. It's important for us. And so I want to thank you and everyone else for making this what really is a community discussion. It's my job to make sure that I let everybody, wrap up their days. And so I need to take us to our lightning round. And I know for this, Sandra, you've prepared a few short questions.
Yeah.
My first one to you is, what keeps you grounded?
I think my faith and giving a meaning to what I'm going through. I think this is very important for me.
Mm.
So it has been something I go back to, and my foundation.
Yeah, beautiful pillar of stability. Thank you. What helps you be limitless? What helps you imagine and stay curious and dream?
My mission as the founder of Siira, and my team keeps me grounded. Even with the cybersecurity company, also my mission to be able to help protect companies. So why how I am of service to others. This keeps me limitless and in creative mode all the time.
Beautiful. What is one leadership quality from the Arab world that the rest of the world can learn from?
I know it's a cliche, and I know we've said it so many times. It pops up every time we talk about Arab leaders, but it's resilience, and I stand by it. And now more than ever, we're really learning how to scenario plan, how to bounce back, and how to get creative, how to really find opportunity in crisis. And this is the most difficult thing to do as leaders, despite all the ugliness and wanting to in winter just retreat and just do nothing and sit in your in your home and wait for winter to end. We're not at all doing that as leaders, and I see it everywhere with all our customers. Finding opportunity, it's going out there, it's being in the storm, it's really seeing how we can, despite everything, keep our teams, keep our people, and really be of stay grounded in our mission, be of service to others, and to really continue and sustain. It's not going to be easy. A lot of companies are going through a tough time, and this is the time where we have to be really creative and lean on each other, I would say. So resilience, bouncing back, and you don't do it alone. Again, you have to do it with others.
Beautiful. It's going to be hard to answer this last one because we covered so much rich ground in the last 55 minutes. But I have to ask you, based on our conversation and everything we talked about when it comes to regulating your emotions and prolonged uncertainty and the role of leaders, what are the top 3 things that you would advise leaders to do right now?
One, I would say fill your cup. Start with you. It starts with you. So this is the most important time to be really selfish, quote unquote, and put your own oxygen mask first, as you mentioned, Tala. So it starts with you. Take the time to take care of you so that you can take care of others. So prioritize that. Fill your cup. In whatever shape or form, each one has his own blueprint of how he or she can fill her cup. So that's one. Two, acknowledge that you're in winter with everything that comes, with it, the difficulties, the challenges. But winter will end, and it's a learning. It's a learning journey. It's a learning process. There's a lot of learning out of it, and give it meaning. Those experiences and those challenges shape us in a way and make us better leaders, even better leaders. And three, I would say lean on others, build your own support system. So lean on your team, lean on your loved ones, and really think that everything you do is good enough, and you're not supposed to do it alone.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. I know that there's one resource that you have that you'd love to share with everybody in the audience. Maybe you want to tell them about it. I know Zaina from our team will drop the link to share with everyone.
Yes, it's just a small, table. We want to make things in times of crisis. People don't want to read complicated stuff. They just want simple things that remind us, what are the pillars of well-being that we have to take care of, and what are small actions that we can take that are very simple. That if we prioritize 2 or 3 of them per day, we'll be really fine and show up better. So just take a moment, read them. It's things we know, but it just, for me, it just reminds me that, okay, what did I do today for my physical well-being? What did I do for my social well-being? And what did I do for my emotional and mental well-being? That's it. Just asking these 3-4 questions at the end of each day, or at the start of each day, just makes it intention, it allows me to take action intentionally.
Yeah. It's always those beautiful basics that carry us through. So thank you for that. And thank you for all of the insights that you shared, Sandra. Like, this conversation has been one I know myself, it has been a way to fill my own cup, actually. So thank you for that. It's made me think a lot about all of the moments in the past month where I can apply the new tools that you shared. And I think everyone in the audience really enjoyed it. Thank you to the attendees also for making this feel like a true community conversation.
It was a pleasure.
It's been wonderful sharing this space with you. In case you missed it, or in case you only caught half of this conversation, I wanted to share that we will be uploading a recording of this session to our YouTube channel. We will be also creating a podcast out of it. So if you're going for that walk, like you said, that reminder to move, it's a great way to catch up on it. And if there's somebody in your network who you believe might find this conversation useful, please do pass this along. Like I said, if you would be so kind as to give us 5 more minutes, we are conducting primary research on leadership in the Arab world. There is not much out there. We want to really make sure that we capture how leaders in our region are navigating uncertainty, and what are those qualities that they possess that really the rest of the world can learn from us. So Zaina will redrop that link in the chat. It would mean a great deal for us if you took that survey. We will be continuing these conversations over the coming weeks as part of our, which I can't believe, 7th annual Cosmic Conference. You can find the full program in the comment section below. And tomorrow, I have the privilege of running another session. I'll be speaking to Claire Furlong, a partner at FGS Global, in a session titled Empathy and Direction, Leadership Communication in Times of Crisis. And so much, Sandra, of what we covered today will be unpacked with a different lens, with a comms lens tomorrow. So please join us here tomorrow, Tuesday, March 31st, on LinkedIn Live at 12 noon UAE time. If you'd like to stay connected, always keep in touch. Thank you, Sandra. We're grateful to everyone for joining us. And to the team.
Conference.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see you all again soon. Take care.
Take care.